Dino with the Devil Part 2. We have a guest. Her name is Kat, and she is from the western slope of Colorado. So, Kat, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear her, Rob?
Yep, I've got her.
All righty. So, Kat from Colorado. Scare me.
All right.
Well,
So,
first, JV, before we
The
get into that,
screen's up.
sorry for interrupting, Kat. Didn't you want to make a little addressment or
Oh, yeah.
talk about something real quick?
See, guys, we are new at this, and I actually prepared something. So, it's like I wanted to address something that has started to, make itself to me beyond clear. In normal instances, people use a well-known name. All right, we got to stop this.
What are you doing?
My camera's screwing up. Sorry, guys. All right, there we go. It's back.
All right.
All right, guys. I wanted to address something that has started to make itself known to me beyond the normal instance of people using a well-known name to gain followers, okay? I do my best to represent a community of people that have had real traumas in their lives and don't have this ability to speak on them. This community may have been laughed at and questioned and ridiculed when they have found the strength to discuss the traumas in which puts us into a deeper hole that can be the most lonely feeling in the world. I wrote this down to sound more professional, and yeah, that's clearly. So bear with me, guys.
You're doing just fine.
To say that, let me be the one to continue to open up space to any one of you guys that want to talk. Fuck that. That's what we're doing here. And if you can open up and share your story and get that out there, and give me some insight and give yourself a peace of mind, that's what we're doing this channel for. So I want to introduce Kat. She is from the western slope of Colorado. And we're going to let her tell her story. So, Kat, are you there?
I am. I'm here.
All right. Welcome to the show, and let's get scared.
Okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Kat, and I am from a sleepy little town in western Colorado, almost ghost town. And I have definitely had some experiences and some traumas that I want to kind of share with everybody. And I think that it's a really cool place to be able, and safe place to really discuss some of the things that have happened in everybody's lives. And hopefully this will open doors and give some positivity to those people that they know where to go when you are stuck in these types of situations.
Really? I mean, how long has it affected you? Is this something that's recent, or?
No. So it's affected me my entire life. And it started when I was a very, very young child. It just got more prominent as I got older, and the way that I was able to deal with it later on in life has been very different. But as a young child, I started having experiences from the minute probably 5, 6 years old.
Oh, shit.
Yes. Between.
Do you remember those, or is it just like a roundabout?
It's a roundabout. To be honest with you, it's been quite a road for me, and it's taking what is everybody else's not norm and creating it a norm in my life. And I'm really excited to share my story about what this is all about. So I grew up in a sleepy little town, 3 miles long, in a very, very tiny little
Hey guys,
town.
I'm sorry to interrupt. It looks like we're having some static audio. I'm seeing that they're saying the audio is a little staticky.
Let me move my candles.
So let's see if we can test that and make sure that's good before continuing, so we can all hear Kat well. Okay. I'm seeing some folks think it might be a candle by the the speaker. They say it's way better now.
All right, let me see that one. Sorry, guys, we are learning. So
That's what it's all about. We're just learning. and
How's
figuring
that?
it all out.
Everybody good? All right, Kat, you still there?
I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, they can.
Yeah?
All right, cool. So what you were saying, what?
So I was saying I came from a sleepy little mountain town on the western slope of Colorado. And I've been having experiences since I was a child. And so I'm really excited that I found JB and Rob to be able to tell my story. It has been quite a road for me, lots of ups and lots of downs. So I'm very, I feel like this is a safe place, and hopefully other people can start to tell their stories as well and feel comfortable in this type of forum. But I think it's very important that there's a lot of people who have been through the things that I have been through and are able to be vocal about it.
Have you ever been vocal about it before?
Not really. I mean, I have started to be. I actually have found some pretty amazing spiritual counselors who have helped me through a lot of the things that have happened and the trauma that has occurred so that I can understand it and deal with it properly. And I think that that's the importance of being in this type of situation.
Like, so you went the religious route, or?
Not necessarily. I would say more of a spiritual route. I grew up in my town. There was a big, so I grew up as a Catholic, and my family, however, in my town, the majority of the people in my town were Wiccan. So
Oh, Jesus.
it's a
That's
totally
witches, right?
yes.
Oh,
so
fuck.
I was exposed at a very young age.
Not putting them down, it's just a little scary, and I deal with some scary shit, so.
It can be, but not when you're really when you really look into it. But I have never been a practicing Wiccan, but I did grow up in a community where it was very prominent. So spirituality was huge in our town. Our town is an old gold mining town, so
Oh,
there was
shit.
lots of history, lots of ghost stories, lots of spiritual things that were happening consistently. And that's where everything kind of really began for me. Starting from the time I was probably 7 years old, I started hearing voices and being tormented as an individual and as a little child with nightmares and voices and fear.
Like an internal voice, or like, is the shit around you?
It's around you. There's nothing worse than waking up and hearing that someone is going to get you. And that was voices that I heard when I was young. And I have two sisters.
Like,
and
I'm gonna get you?
like, be scared.
Alright.
And my two sisters also have had the same situations. And so has my mother. So my mother has helped prepare us for some of the things and the sensitivities that we believe are happening in our family.
So, all of you guys have experienced shit.
Yes,
Alright. And,
absolutely.
like, your sisters, you said?
Yes.
I mean, did they experience it too, or were you solo on that mission?
No, we all have experienced certain things together and separate, starting as young children.
All right, let's dive into that a little bit worse. Like, when you were younger and you knew that there was something around you, was it something that you seen right away? Because I've had dreams that I've woke up and I thought I heard something, and, you know, I just thought I was tripping, you know, like bad nightmare. I mean, what was your first interaction where you're like, fuck, you know?
So my first interactions growing up, and my sisters as well, is we lived on top of a mountain in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if anybody knows what a party line is, but it means basically that we are so far secluded that we had to share a phone line with neighbors. So you'd get on the
So
phone.
you were in Podunk.
We were in Podunk, nowhere. My family decided, or my mom and dad decided that they were going to buy this great piece of land. It was beautiful. However, it was an old historical miner's cabin
Ooh.
that was built in 1825.
Oh, no shit. Did it have like a toilet in there, or?
It did on half of it. However, it definitely was scary. It even had the original stove in the middle of the cabin that you would use for heat and things like that. So
Right.
if you can imagine being in the Colorado mountains, Rocky Mountains at 10,000 feet in an old cabin, in itself is a little bit creepy. But and not
Surrounded by
understand
wood and
and not
in the middle of
understand
nowhere.
right and not understanding the history
Ooh.
behind it.
I'm getting the chills already.
So there was a time when my family decided that we were going to remodel this cabin, and the one thing about historical structures in general is that you have to keep a wall that's original to that cabin or to that structure
Oh,
to
so you
keep it
built around it?
historical, right? Because it's considered a historical landmark. And so that's kind of where things started to get interesting in my life. Nothing really negative happened there, but it was obvious. You saw figures, you heard lots of voices. The mining community in that area was very, very big and large, and there was a lot of Native American land
Right.
that we specifically were on. So my experiences started very young when I actually heard voices. And it was interesting because you almost feel like there's a radio in the background and you can't really decipher what it's saying or what they are saying. However, it's annoying, to be
Yeah.
honest. It's very annoying to hear.
It irritates the shit out of you.
And you start thinking that you're crazy, and and then you start seeing figures consistently.
Like
and-
figures, like I've seen some figures. Like, what do you mean?
Like the figures that I have seen in your videos are very similar to the figures that I have seen in my life.
How'd that make you feel when you saw it for the first time?
I was scared to death. I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't understand, especially being able to hear things as well. You add the two together and you live in the middle of nowhere, and you know that you don't even have TV yet. And you're hearing all of these crazy things, and you're trying to figure out what it's saying or what's happening, and it's confusing, especially as a young person.
Like,
Yeah.
when the first time you saw one, where was it at, and how did it make you feel? Because when I first saw it, it was not on camera, and I pissed myself, literally. Like, let it go.
I think as a child, it was the first time that I actually saw figures, or I saw whatever it was. It was this overwhelming sense of anxiety.
Yes.
I started having panic attacks when I was probably 10 years old.
It was a long-lasting thing after you saw it, right? Like, you saw this, and you're like, oh, fuck. Like, it shook your shit.
Absolutely. I mean, it was, you don't know how to comprehend, especially at a young age, of the way that you're feeling. First off, you're scared to death. I was scared to death. I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know what was going on. I felt like I was going crazy. I was too scared to tell my parents, because why would I tell my parents? I'm like, oh, what am I supposed to say? I'm 10 years old and I'm experiencing all this crazy stuff, right?
It's no easier as a grown-ass
and-
man, trust me.
And that's also when my nightmares began. And during that time, I would have nightmares that were very substantial, that I could not sleep. And I was alone a lot up there and secluded in this area.
Alone?
Yes, because
As a child?
my parents worked.
Where were your
and
sisters?
My sisters were always gone. They didn't want to be in the house. I mean, it was obvious that
seems
there was
kinda fucked
things.
up.
Oh, sure. I mean, it was, but if you have opportunity to leave certain areas and you don't want to be a part of it, then you take yourself out of that situation in general. I, however, am a curious person, and I am somewhat a homebody and introvert, and therefore I decided to explore kind of what was going on with me.
Oh,
and
wow.
what was-
At a
and
young
how I was
age?
feeling. Absolutely.
Nice.
Well,
Good for you.
it was because when something is tormenting you, I'm the person that wants to understand it. I want to know what's going on. I want to know how to eliminate that from my life or how to deal with it.
Nice.
And I've always been that way. So that's where my story kind of began.
Nice. Well, shit, you already scared me, so let's do this. I mean,
Okay.
get at it, sister.
All right. So the most significant part of my life, like I said, is I grew up in a community that was very strong with Wiccan type of spirituality. And however, I was not Wiccan, and neither was my family. So let me make that clear. The second part is that my mom somewhat prepared us for being and seeing things that we didn't quite understand. Having experiences herself, she never said that she was necessarily sensitive, but later on in life, it was something that she definitely explained to us.
Mm-hmm. Your mom was aware.
She was aware. She's been aware forever.
And she'd leave you there?
She would. Because she didn't know the experiences that we were having. She didn't know the experiences that I was having. You know, it's not like I was vocal about it. You don't know who to tell.
No, yeah.
Like, you don't
I'm
even
just
know,
trying to wrap that around in my head. Like,
you don't even know how to
what would
comprehend
my
it.
mom do?
Yeah, you don't even know how to comprehend it yourself being 10, 11 years old. Like, you don't get it. You're scared. You think, okay, am I really experiencing this? But that's when I really started to dabble in learning about spirituality and learning about the afterlife and different religions and religious philosophies, is because I decided to absorb myself and learn, what am I experiencing? How does it make sense? So later on in life, when I was about 15 years old, my family moved down to the city. As you can imagine what that would be like, coming from the middle of nowhere where no street lights. Total culture shock. Total. But that's also around 13, 14 years old, which many people can probably understand and, relate to, is when you're going through a lot of change. I mean, not just physically, but also mentally, and trying to figure out who you are. And honestly, the fear was so great, and the discomfort of the things I had experienced in the past, that I thought that moving would make it all go away.
I know that feeling.
Yes. However, it amplified. So I decided to dabble in things that I could say I shouldn't have, but I'm glad that I did.
Dabble. I mean, drugs, alcohol, sex, guns, violence. I mean,
Nothing like that. No,
Okay.
I mean in the spiritual world.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Thus the show. I mean, sorry, I played around with some
Okay.
stuff, thought it was After Effects, so just thought I'd throw that out there. Being honest.
So,
Maybe I think what she's alluding to is when you get that age, you've experienced those things, it leads to a certain curiosity where you want to learn more about what you've experienced, kind of a comforting type thing.
Like press the envelope a little bit, like I've been doing.
Right, exactly.
Oh, okay. All right, I just thought, whatever.
Yeah.
Being honest.
It's all good.
All right. Anyway, I'm sorry, that was rude.
no, you're fine. So, I moved into this home with my family when I was 15 years old. And that's when things started to get a little out of control. There is no history of this house of anything crazy happening. There's no, there's
No history.
Yeah, zero. So that's when it started, but things started to really happen. And I started to dabble in some things that, right or wrong, I don't know. I was trying to figure it out because after being tormented for so much in my life, and when I talk about torment, I'm not talking about, being hit in the face, okay? I'm talking about hearing voices and being a young child and seeing things and not understanding what it all means. And when you start developing relationships with these things, with these entities, let's say, you become curious, and that's exactly what I was. I was curious. I wanted to know what was going on. There had never been anything really negative that had happened up to that point. However, diving deep and being open to whatever was there definitely made it very negative. And so I had very, not at this point in my life, negative experiences when I was young, but starting at about 15, it was very negative, and it was a very, very scary time in my life and my family's life regarding the situations that had happened. You know, I would say the first red flag that happened when we moved down to the city was that I actually had a deaf albino cat. That sounds a little
Wow.
crazy.
That's
but-
something you find every day. For
No,
sure.
he was awesome. I love the cat. But he was freaked out. And if you can imagine, animals, they say, are super intuitive to things that are going on. And having a deaf cat that was very aware and scared in our home to go upstairs or downstairs was a problem. We lived in a tri-level home at the time. We had the basement, the main level, and then we had upstairs.
Oh.
And things really progressed at that point for not only myself, but my entire family. And it has affected us for the rest of our lives. So
Yeah.
the
I can't imagine. Here we go.
So some of the things that used to happen are, for example, my cat, the first indication was that he always wanted out at 3 a.m. and would wake up my father. Now, something to know about my dad, he was in the military. He kind of is a skeptic regarding anything spiritual or religious in general. He also is a very logical person, and he was a director of a huge corporate company. So he didn't scare easy. It's not something that he ever really worried about. But at one point, he had discussed, my mother actually brought it up, is that we were sleeping, and when you would go upstairs, there was 3 bedrooms. So you would go up the stairs. My bedroom was directly to the left. My sister's was at the end of the hall, and then my parents' was on the right side with a bathroom. And he swore up and down at 3 a.m. every day our cat would wake him up and want to go outside. And that's strange. Think about a deaf albino cat that wants to go outside and waking somebody up. It's not normal behavior.
No, yeah. I'm just trying to think, like, just a deaf albino cat would have scared me by itself.
Oh my
Waking
gosh,
me
okay.
up.
Well,
Like,
that's terrible to say, but okay.
I'm sorry.
So,
just trying to bring light to the situation because I'm getting a little spooked here. I am at home right now, so.
the cat would wake him up every single day at 3 a.m. And the first thing that happened that brought attention to this whole thing that he never shared with us until after was that the cat would always wake him up. He'd put him outside, and it was annoying to him. And then he would always hear scratching on his closet doors. Well, one night he heard something, and he looked outside his bedroom window, and he swore that he saw 2 men walk into my sister's room at the end of the hall.
Oh, wow.
Well, my dad,
Like-
yeah,
Okay. I'm going to leave that one alone.
okay.
It's not a comedy show, but let's go.
No, yeah.
Sorry.
So my dad, being the type of man that he was like, okay, I'm going to grab my 9mm and we're going to walk the house, right? Like, this is not going to happen. No way. And he actually woke up my mother by covering her mouth because he legitimately thought there was somebody in the house.
Oh, no. He's like, honey, shit's going down.
Correct.
All right, cool.
So my dad walks the house with his firearm or whatever, and realizes that there's nobody there. And he goes back to bed, and he freaks kind of everybody out, right? Because now we're like, okay, is there strangers in the home? But there's no figures in my sister's bedroom. So that was kind of when it all started. After that, during that time, I was listening to transcendent music, and I was really into like Enya and things like that. I know I'm totally aging myself, so I apologize.
I wasn't going to
it's
say
true.
nothing.
I know.
Like I said, not a comedy
right?
show.
And I was really into that music. Like, I thought it was really cool and just like whatever, right? Well, apparently it's fairly transcendental, which means that it's really opens up gates to the spiritual world. And, you know, at that point in my life, because of the things that had happened, my parents decided to put us in private religious school as well.
Oh, wow.
So I was really open to this transcendentalism, which I technically, or according to the belief of my school, was not okay. But I was interested. I was interested because I'd had all these experiences previously in my life, and I decided to explore it.
I wish I had the balls to do that. Like, you started at a young age. I'm a grown-ass man, and I'm fucking terrified, so sorry.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I mean, I think that as life goes on, you learn how to deal with specific situations, and with correct counsel, then you can really understand how things are and what can hurt you and what can't.
Like a shrink? That's what I got. He thinks I'm fucking nuts.
A spiritual shrink, I guess. But anyway, so that's when things started to escalate, is when I was about 15 years old. We lived in this house. We moved down. It was kind of a stressful time for everybody. My dad started to experience things, but never disclosed that until after some of the experiences we started to share. And we had to get spiritual counselors involved in the situation because it was so severe.
Mm-hmm.
It all began. So it all began with nightmares. I've been having nightmares my entire life, but being in that home and being interested in things I wasn't opening myself up, I believe, has created nightmares that were undescribable. And I'm a very firm believer in manifestation. And what you believe in and what you say, be very, very careful, because it will manifest into whatever you're saying.
Like a placebo?
No, a placebo.
Like it's all in your head?
It's not
So
in
I'm
your
pretty
head.
sure it's not my head.
No, it's not in your head. Like, you're sitting there and you're saying something's going to happen, something's going to happen, something's going to happen, and then something happens. Because you're manifesting it.
Okay.
You're asking it to come into your door.
I've heard about that.
Right? You're asking it to knock on the door for you to see and to understand. And that is where a lot of the darkness started for me.
Can you do that by accident?
Absolutely.
All right. That helps.
Absolutely. I think curiosity can be a really great thing to understand things, but it also can be very scary if you don't have the right people to help direct you in the correct direction. And for me, it was a very scary time. So my sister and I had decided that we were both experiencing things, and we're a year apart. And then, you know,
Like
voices,
what kind of things?
Voices
You know what I
were
mean?
terrible. The voices, I cannot even tell you how ridiculous the voices were. Like, you couldn't even understand what people were saying because it was like so overwhelming.
And that wasn't in your head. That was like you and your sister heard
Yes. Yes, so
that? At
overwhelming.
random times? I mean,
Yes. And the crazy thing about that whole situation is it got so severe to where my parents actually took us to the doctor to see if we were schizophrenic. Like, I'm not
been
kidding.
there, got the t-shirt.
I'm not kidding.
Not schizo.
Exactly. Not schizophrenic. It was just, that's how bad it was. But again, having my mom who was sensitive tried to really, I think she tried to block things out for a long time and then started really being open when we started really experiencing things. So in my room, listening to my music that I wasn't technically supposed to be listening to. And it was a constant battle daily, nightly, of dealing with, I don't know if it was one or multiple entities, but it was harmful. It was to the point where you would feel like the heaviness on your chest when you were sleeping, you couldn't move. It would be that somebody was standing at the end of your bed and moving your covers. It was very prominent and a very scary time. And it became so bad that I could not sleep without my door closed, my shades shut, and all my mirrors covered. because it was so severe. At that point, my sister was also experiencing things more like voices, and just the feeling that when you were walking up and down the stairs to get to the main level or even to the basement, like you felt like someone was chasing you. And that was a very normal feeling that we had. And we had this pocket door on the bottom of our basement that we would always make sure was closed when we went upstairs, because we always felt like someone was chasing us upstairs.
Oh, wow. Like an anxiety, almost like you got to run and you're like, ooh.
Extreme anxiety.
Yeah.
So, and the same thing happened when you would go upstairs. The crazy thing about upstairs is that for some reason, when you were going downstairs, you would get pushed and fall down the stairs. And that happened numerous times throughout our lives when we were young, and then also when we were older in our 20s, and even when we were pregnant.
While you were pregnant, you took a dive down the stairs?
Twice, and so did my sister.
Oh, wow.
Same stairs, same spot. And we always felt it, and you just always had to be very, very careful, I guess, of those situations.
That's a whole nother level of crazy.
It was.
I fell down the stairs trying to get the hell out of the way, but to be shoved, I have yet to have that happen. I have had physical contact with mine, but that's kind of, I feel bad, man.
Well, yeah. Anyways, so it was a scary time in general. You would, if you even attempted to go down the stairs, you had to hold on to the hand railing because you could almost anticipate being pushed. Like it was just what it was. And the problem is it becomes normal, right? So when you ignore something for so long,
Not normal.
It becomes norm. And that's exactly what was happening. Well, after our anxiety started getting pretty crazy and the voices started becoming more and more prominent, and my dad actually said something about the ghosts or the entities that he had seen going to my sister's room. My sister and I decided that we're going to sleep together. So if you can imagine,
Yeah, for
we
real.
are juniors and seniors in
Even on the
high
couch.
school. Juniors and seniors in high school, and we are scared to sleep in our own beds. And that should say something in itself. Because
Yeah.
you want to be independent. You don't want to
Sleep with your sister.
sleep with your sister or even admit it, okay?
Shitting yourself. Yeah.
Let's be real about that.
That brings
You
on
don't
a
want
whole
to.
nother set of anxiety besides homework and getting your ass up to get.
Exactly. That's not what we were thinking about every day. It was like, what are we going to come home to? What is it going to be like? And how are we going to be tormented?
I know that.
And so we started sleeping together. So one night when things really started to escalate in the household, I woke up with my sister basically beating me. And when I had talked to my sister, I had stopped her from hitting me. And when I had talked to her the next day, she swore up and down she never slept all night and that she didn't touch me.
Oh, no.
So when I went to school that day, and I went to a private religious school, and I was beat up. I had a black eye. I was beat up. And we were referred to have religious counsel at that point to try and figure out what was going on within the household. And it wasn't that they were worried about my parents being abusive, right? It was obviously a spiritual attack of whatever was going on.
Your school knew that?
Yes.
That's jacked.
So our spiritual counselor at the time, who happened to be our vice principal, had suggested that we go, and when we're in the household, we sing Christian music, right? So you sing worship music, you try and make this entity as uncomfortable as possible, right? To get out. We also had the conversation of, you always tell, if you're uncomfortable, you have to tell the entity to leave you alone. Like, you're not allowed here, all of those things. And get out. So.
Like physically scream at it?
Yes.
See, I'm Jewish, and that's not at all how,
Right.
I've tried everything. And yeah, at a certain level, you got to wonder. Oh, anyway, go ahead. Sorry. You really got me going here, so continue.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, no, you're fine. So when we decided to seek spiritual counsel, it was actually by my parents as well, because my sister and I had not slept in a significant amount of time. Our grades were declining, as you could imagine. And then obviously it had become physical, and we didn't know why. And for some reason, they felt like it was targeting me as an individual, and they had initially blamed it on, well, they did blame it, I should say, on my curiosities regarding the spiritual realms.
Oof. So you invited it. You were ready.
Which they say I was. I don't feel that way, to be honest. I feel like we all kind of, when things are happening to you, you're seeking for truth, and you're seeking, and you're naturally, we're naturally curious. So we're trying to figure out what's going on so that we can try and control whatever is happening as individuals. I think that that's human nature. And apparently I had somewhat antagonized whatever was there. By, if it was my music, if it was the things I was doing, I don't know. But I can tell you that drugs and alcohol and sex were not part of it.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good. All right, we got that off the table. I made one comment. Dear God. All right.
So anyways, after being beat up by my sister, even though it wasn't my sister, whatever was happening, we decided to seek the spiritual counsel, and they had told us that we needed to bless the house. And at that time, the best timing was that my cousin was actually over in Israel doing a missions trip, and she brought holy water over from Israel that had been blessed.
The motherland.
The motherland.
Literally.
Yes. So we decided to go ahead and bless the house. The problem with this scenario is that my father was still skeptical, and according to the spiritual realm and the religious entities that we were working with, or religious people, they were saying that we don't have a spiritual leader in the household. So it was really hard to uphold what we were trying to do. So my sister and I decided after, before we had blessed the house and we were told that we needed to speak spiritually or sing songs, spiritual songs or worship songs when we're there, to create this, this animosity with this entity, we decided to do that. So one day we both came home. I was a sophomore and she was a junior in high school. So we were older. It's not like we were kids. And we walked in the house and we started to sing songs. And she was a rebel, well, quote unquote, and decided she was going to go smoke a cigarette outside on the porch, whatever. And I was sitting in the kitchen, and we both decided to sing Shout to the Lord, which is a non-denominational Christian song.
I go to the non-denominationals from time to time. They're good people.
Yeah.
Good
so we start singing this song together. I can't really hear her, but we're both decided before we walked in the door that's what we were going to do, right? Because we got the spiritual counsel to do so.
Yeah.
Well, at that
motivated.
Exactly. So at that moment in time, I was sitting in the kitchen. I remember specifically, and my sister was outside on the porch smoking her cigarette. And we had these bars on our windows, and the bars on the windows are not like for safety. Okay, we lived in a very prominent area. It was more of
A style.
A style,
yeah.
Exactly. The style of the home, right? And the bar started to shake.
Ooh.
And then upstairs we heard a slam of the sliding door, and there was, in my parents' bedroom, they had a private balcony. And in that private balcony, they had the sliding door, and that's what we both heard slam.
Ooh.
At that point,
that takes some real effort.
And at that point, my sister ran into the door, and I was running down to her because the bars were shaking, and then that happened. And we both looked at each other like, oh my gosh, did you hear that? Was that you? Was that you? Like, you're trying to figure out where it came from. And we were like, oh my gosh. And we bolted. To be honest, we were scared to death. We did not want to go back into the house. We had a piano that would play. We always saw people. We heard voices. But this is obviously I had a black eye. Like, this is it's become very physical at this point in time. And It was scary. It was really scary. Nobody was sleeping in the house, and then that happened, and we left. We were both like, we're done with this. Like,
Couldn't
we
take
don't
it
know
no
what
more.
to do.
Yeah.
And it started to become, again, between the physical aspect and the, just the voices and the everything else that was happening, it became very overwhelming to everybody within the household and a very negative environment.
Has it followed you since? Like moving up to current day?
So I don't think that entity itself has followed me. And the only reason why I say that is because later on in life in that house, because that was one thing we were trying to decipher, is it connected to the house or connected to one of us? And when we went and we blessed the house, it took 2 to 3 days of really crazy things that were happening, and then it started to die out.
Like completely, or?
No, never completely, but not as prominent.
So how do you feel nowadays?
I think the biggest lesson that I've learned through this entire thing is it's okay to be curious. And I've had a lot of other situations that have happened in my life where I see entities and I hear them consistently. However, I have been able to reach out and find specific people to help me cope with those types of things that are happening to me.
Okay.
I think the problem is that we are consistently sitting there thinking about how we're going to be tormented every single day of our lives, and we think it's very uncontrollable.
Right.
And it is, in a way, but the one thing that we can control is how we deal with it.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm in the process of doing, to be honest with you. And I've tried the whole religious thing. And I gotta say that, I am a bit bitter, to be honest with you. And like I said, I come from a Jewish background. And I've reached out to Christian, non-denominational. A friend of mine who's Muslim came over, and, Catholic. And none of it has helped. And everybody says that I need to get spiritual counseling. When you have such a vast view, it really puts a damper on it and kind of tarnishes how you view certain things. Not everything's like it is on the movie. And you'll find that out if you really go through stuff like this. It's, certain people capture this, certain people capture that, it dates back to the beginning of time.
Right.
And I struggle on learning how to deal with it.
Right. Well,
it's a fucking nightmare.
right. I know it is. And I've lived that nightmare. I think that, to live in fear your entire life about the things that we don't understand, and I think that that's humanity. Because if you don't understand it, it's scary.
Right.
Right? I mean, things can physically happen, but then you have to start thinking about, well, why? Why am I the one who's being chosen? Why am I the one who's being tormented? Why am I the one? And I think that brings a light a big picture, of there's so many people who have been through and had experiences, and I can tell you my experiences have been countless. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I truly believe that some of these, I consider it a gift at this point. When I was 15, it was definitely a curse. I was depressed. It made me sad. I didn't know how to deal with it.
That's the worst.
I didn't know what to turn
It's the worst
to.
for me.
And, it really affected our entire lives and my family's entire life at that point in time. I was fortunate enough to be able to reach out and find people who were like me.
Yeah, you're talking to one.
Exactly.
You got a whole list of viewers that would agree with you as well.
When I was around 22 years old, I met a woman who claimed to be a medium.
Yeah, I've had those too.
And she actually introduced me to tarot cards and some other spiritual things and enlightenment and things like that. And we talked a lot, and she helped me learn how to deal with some of the negative entities that I was seeing consistently, and then letting me know as well that I was not alone. And I think that that's the biggest key factor of being in this type of environment, is that, again, my experiences are countless. I cannot tell you every single day I have an experience.
Right.
It does not change. You can say that, I would say gift of vision, or you could call it being gifted or being sensitive, or all of those things. And I truly believe that it is something that I am very well aware of. And as a young person, you don't know how to deal with those things.
No.
And controlling those things, and controlling the way that you feel about things. And there's
Controlling the way you feel things. You're gonna have to dig in deeper with that, because I mean, just in life in general, it's hard to control your emotions from time to time. But when you see something or you deal with something, just in general, that you're like, shit, should I say anything? I've taken a lot of criticism for even doing this show, and I'm more worried about real people than I am dead people. Have you ever had that feeling after dealing with the stuff that you've dealt with?
every day. I have a child who also is fairly sensitive, and it's something that I don't talk about every single day, but when it comes up, it's something that I try and relate to.
Yeah.
When you're stuck between the spiritual world, everyone has their own opinions about how things are. Are you a demon? Are you an angel? Are you a ghost? Are you not? Are you in, what are you, right? Are you in limbo land? I don't know. But the reality of the situation is this, is that there's something greater than us that we can't explain, and there's not a lot of people who look outside of the logic to try and understand those things that are happening.
Like aliens.
Exactly. Same concept.
And that's why I laugh all the time when I see a lot of these people in the comments and some of the stuff that they say. It's like they were the same idiots that should eat bags of dicks for judging people who have, UFO experience. Now, I'm not saying all of them are real, believe me. And just like my show, I don't expect anybody to believe a fucking word that I say. That is all up to the opinion of the viewer. It's a controversial subject, and I know that. But in my scenario is that's negativity. And then you have negativity in real life, because let's face it, like, I'm speaking to a camera with people that I've never met sitting right in front of me. You know what I mean? And it flows into real life. And it's hard to avoid negativity in 2021, and that's why I like doing this kind of stuff, because it gets you away from the politics and the hard stories that you hear. And if you're a business owner, you can't find work right now, and all that's negativity. And I think that's caused a lot of my viewers, especially, to have experiences, because we read all the emails from you viewers, and just the negative environment that we're exposed to every time you turn on the TV, it feeds it for some people. And like you said, I genuinely believe there's certain people out there that are more, susceptible, or, more apt to getting experience from others. And, unfortunately, their first instinct is not to pick up their phone and fucking record it. And if you do, you catch it every once in a while. But like you said, when you get a lot of it, I mean, would you post any of these experiences if you got them on, film?
Would I? Honestly, with where I am, with who I am, and all those things, it's a big jump for me to even be talking to you. I think that I feel the importance of it, of letting people know that you're not alone, that I understand it and I get it, and that there are groups and places out there to help you understand, so that you're not fearful. And I think that a lot of the entities, when they do come to you, and when they are so prominent, it's to get attention. And it's to And it's the way that you react to them that resolves that issue. It's,
So would you ever go looking for it? Because I've had a number of people that, are offside camera, because a lot of people don't want to be on this shit. You know what I mean? They don't want a camera in their face, and they don't want to sit down like you and I are and just have a general conversation to let others hear it. And, a lot of people told me to, go to other places and experience it, and from a different point of view, and see the variations of evil for my own and educate myself. Because again, like I was told by a very, very high up person in my synagogue that, sometimes you have to face it in the face. It doesn't work like the movies say. You know what I mean? That the exorcisms and all that kind of stuff, the bullshit red tape that you have to go through to even be considered for that is incredible. And that's not something that they're going to do on a camera.
right.
You know what I mean? And that's the reality of it. If you talk to any religious figure and about this subject in general, that it's a general runaround, because I think that it, in some scenarios, it scares the individuals that you tell about it. And some of the most surreal things happen to people, and these priests and stuff have to sit down and hear these stories, and it makes me wonder after a certain level how many people have come forward that haven't been able to talk about it and just made themselves feel stupid and then hid from it and live in misery. So, I mean, going out and looking for it and experiencing it on a different level is what I've been advised to do, and face it, educate myself, and just learn how to deal with it. The exact quote was, "You'll be surprised what you get used to." And I've heard that a number of times. And I'm down to try anything at this point.
I would agree to a sense. I think to normalize specific behaviors or things or experiences that are happening is okay. I do. However, I think that if you start learning who or what these entities are or trying to figure it out, it's going to help you cope. And I know that's harder said than done, because I've been there. I have lived in fear for a ridiculous amount of my life, to the point where I was able to control my nightmares, because my nightmares were out of control. I have been physically attacked. I have been mentally attacked. I have dealt with the, vocalization within my ears nightly for my entire life, fighting with insomnia and
God.
all of those things.
I've said the same
Since
thing
I
in
was
my
a child,
videos. Yeah.
since I was a child, anxiety attacks from the time that I was probably 6 years old on to the point where it's inhabilitating. I think that there's things that we don't understand and we don't get, therefore we're fearful. And there are things to be feared upon, and there are things to be scared of. And I get that, but it's how do we decipher what is to be fearful of and what is not, and how do you deal with those things?
Yeah.
For me, and my experiences and the things that I have learned throughout my life and finding these people and these forums to be vocal about your experiences and to be able to get insight on what's going on and to be able to understand what's happening, especially as a sensitive and coming from a family of sensitives. It's extremely crucial.
Well, you're the first person that has identified themselves as a sensitive that I don't think is a complete fucking nut job. I mean, and it's made me uncomfortable having this conversation with you, because it's a lot like what I've experienced, and I was convinced that for a long time that I am the only person that this has happened to, and it's like it's hard to reach out, like you said, and talk to people about it, because again, I would rather people think that I'm crazy. And that's why I don't ask for people to beg me and then, do in-depth videos of seeing every square inch of how things are. I capture it in the moment, because that's how your experiences are. It's in the moment. It's not something that you can plan. It's not something that you can, anticipate. Now, I've done things to piss it off, But, you know, when it happens, it's at the drop of a dime. It's, you know, it's an instance.
Well, and that's the whole point, right? Is that these entities and things that are happening, or these experiences, or these people, or spiritual, whatever it is that you're dealing with right now, JB, is it's one of those things where they're expecting that from you.
Well, yeah, I'm an emotional
And
guy. I wear my emotions on my sleeves. If
and
you've watched my videos, you know that.
that makes you I have, and that makes you susceptible, and it made me susceptible of being, number one, sensitive to these things, but number two, not understanding them, and number three, being curious. So when you are curious about things, you can anticipate that your activity is going to continue and be more aggressive, because whatever it is, it knows how to get to you. It knows how to scare you. It knows how to
To get your goat,
to
man.
get you go. Yeah,
And to
exactly.
scream. I'm a big guy. And
You
I'm
know?
not afraid of a lot.
But I think at the end of the day, there's help for people like me and like you, to where we can sit there and we can tell our stories. And like I said, that is a very minuscule part of the experiences that I have had. I've had multiple experiences, but I feel like it is extremely important
To highlight the
inform.
ones that would be relevant to my
Right.
situation. And I thank you for that. And I seen that you did that. And,
Right.
you know, I've got to say, I've talked to a lot of people, and I try not to put a lot of effort into it at this point. You know, I'm sharing my story, and, you know, leading up to what you were saying, you were curious about it. Like, until I've talked to a lot of my viewers, which I have the best viewers in, you know, the paranormal community, I'm convinced. And
I would
I've had a
agree.
lot of, you know, good influences that came up with that. You know, like Mindseed TV, it's a guy I've got to throw props out to. You know, I've met Durban Paranormal, excellent content maker, gets to the root of stuff. Like, I recommend him to any of my viewers to go check out his channel. You know, I've watched like Proving Demons, another good show, and just seeing the stuff that they put themselves through, they're curious. They go out and they see it, you know, and they educate themselves. I'm having trouble with dealing with that notion. At the end of the day, it's either live like I do now or get curious, educate myself about it, go see other people's, you know, experience. Because, I mean, I have multiple photos, which a lot of my viewers have seen, you know, where I'm not even at home and I experience stuff.
Yes.
So, you know, I wouldn't say that I'm a sensitive. I would say that, you know, in the spiritual world anyway, real life, absolutely. It's something that I might have to, you know, heavily consider. And I have Rob and I have Search and the backing of a lot of good followers. So,
Right.
you know, maybe it's time that I do get curious instead of sitting around here, you know, on pins and needles, waiting for the next thing to happen. Like, since
Right.
hearing you, like hearing noises in the background, like it puts me on edge.
Of course it
And
does.
I mean, getting out there and getting away from this environment and, you know, comparing it to other environments. Because I'm a dad, you know, I want to figure it out. And, you know, I think it'll be a hell of a journey. It's going to be a hard one.
Well, of course, and it always is. You know, I think when you're curious, you have to prepare yourself for the good and the bad. And I have been exposed to both.
I mean, how much
As a
worse can
person.
it get in my situation? And that's where I'm at.
Well, I think that the reality says this is that, and I don't mean to be cynical towards you, so please
No, that's
forgive
good.
me. But
Give it to me raw.
But Rob knew by putting me on this show that this is what was going to happen. So,
No, and I respect that. And I don't come into these things prepared, and I try to read that fucking thing in the
Right.
beginning because I wrote it down thinking, oh, okay, this would be a good way to start this. And I'm just going to go at it raw.
Right.
I try to be like other people, and I just don't feel that it's genuine. Me reading from something that I wrote.
right.
You know, and
that's-
you get my point, you know what I
Right.
mean? And a lot of my viewers that do see this, you know, I'll take your criticism. Come on here, your face isn't
it's,
on here.
but it's
Tell
not,
me your story, because this was an uncomfortable one, I'm not gonna lie. Just because of how real it made me feel and its reaction. And you're the fourth or fifth person now that's told me to go out and educate myself and get more curious about it. But I'm on the fence of saying that's borderline fucking insane. I just, and you did that at a young age. Like, I'm a grown man. And to go out and put myself in that position intentionally when I can just do it at home is a nervous feeling.
it is.
Jaden, can I say, I think that I understand the nervous feeling 100%, and we're definitely going to tread lightly, but you know, through knowledge gained, that's going to be the absolute best way for us to go about things. Is learn and try and figure things out so we can address this problem the right way.
Right,
Again, it's crazy to even be having this conversation to begin with.
right.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I love interacting with a lot of you guys out there. I'm not going to lie. And I look forward to every Thursday night because I hear a story that it brings me right to that edge. And I think that as this show continues, because as long as there's a voice to be heard, I'm willing to hear it. You know what I mean? I have put myself out there quite a bit. Not intentionally. My son did this. That's where Dino Nuggets came from, my 12-year-old. And just hearing people's stories, listening to comments, taking advice, like, it's insane. It's a trip. It's cool. It's nice to know that people out there have a similar experience and, you know, are willing to share it. You know, and that's the whole point, like I said, is get on here, tell me your story, and scare me. And I've got to say, Kat, that you did scare me. And it's the lead up into the things that really got me with you. You know, and the fact that you were dabbling in that sense, I wouldn't go down that road. Like I've said a million times, I think the Ouija board is a board game. But again, it's all a matter of perspective and how you come at it. I understand that I might have been doing it wrong. I don't know.
I don't know, if I have to say anything about your Ouija board and what you're trying to do, I would say that it's definitely curiosity. The only piece of advice that I would give you as somebody who has lived and breathed on a consistent basis to the point where I have relationships with some of the entities that follow me is this. You can dabble as much as you want and you can learn as much as you want. But the minute that you show fear is when everything is taken over.
Which is a human trait naturally.
It is.
Some people can stand at the top of the tallest buildings and jump off with the parachute, no problem. And then there's people that can't walk outside if their steps are too high. And I fall in between that guy and the guy that'll run every time when something startles him. There's nothing being macho about sticking around as something that makes you shit yourself. There's absolutely nothing macho into that, in my opinion. It just...
Okay, so I'm going to be a little jerky for a minute. I'm sorry to say this to you, but you understand that when you're dealing with entities and you're dealing with ghosts, they directly feed off of your energy and directly feed off of your responses.
Yeah, I hear that.
And I'm sure you do. And for me, again, I was fortunate to find people's really close psychics to me and people who are in that spiritual world to help me guide me through this type of situations. And I am telling you, as somebody who experiences this daily and someone who has been through really scary things that I could not explain and things that are, you know, yeah, I guess just unexplainable in general, that when you walk in and your first emotion is fear,
That's
you need to
natural.
start It is natural, but you need to start exercising the fact of not being fearful and what does that look like, and trying to understand the intention behind the entities that are disturbing you. And they will only disturb you as much as you allow them to.
I would not allow it to do any of that if I had that option. And that's the difference in your world and mine. I'm a business professional. As you can see, the way this live stream started, I don't have a fucking clue on how to set some of this up. So I don't think like that.
No.
I don't. You know
And
what scares
neither-
me?
And neither did I. And I am a businesswoman, and I work for a very prominent
But you're a lot more
company.
open to it. This has been going on for 7 years of my life, 5 of which I can identify
Sure.
physically and visually. I can identify that as being like, okay, I'm not tripping. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, it's like having an addiction, right? So it's like the first step of learning is to accept that there's actually a problem. The second step is to, after you identify it, is to decide what your triggers are. And the problem is that I see in your situation, JB, is that you have not been able to decide what the intention is behind this entity, whether it's spiritual or if it's not. I don't know if it's 1, if it's 2, if it's 7. I don't know. But what I do know is that curiosity is a great thing for growth. But I highly recommend that you find forums. And again, this is a great opportunity for you to create forums for people to be open about what's happening within their lives. And to be able to share. And
that's why I started this, is to share with me. And like I said, there's a lot about this conversation that made me uncomfortable. It brought me outside my comfort zone, I'm not gonna lie. And I mean, maybe that's a good thing for me. I mean, if you were able to face that, you know, and this might be me talking out of my ass. I might go on, you know, this next couple of months and visit some of these places that I've been invited to, that me and Rob have been invited to, and search. And very well do that. But education, it's going to hurt.
it is. And I think for me individually and what I've been through, and you know, that's just a minuscule part of my story, is that you have to understand and be bold, and you have to have courage to be able to really understand what's happening with around you.
Because you're never going to get rid of it, are you?
No. And I'm going to be real
Finally,
about that.
somebody fucking honest. Like,
I will be real about that. You will never be able to get rid of it.
shit show.
I know, and it's interesting because my sisters and I talk about this a lot, or my sister and I, and it's, you know, anytime everyone says that they're having some type of experience, and you know, and I named my own entity. His name is Joey, and I know that's weird and crazy to think about, but I was talking to my sister the other day, and she's like, well, that's funny. I have a Duncan, and I was like, Duncan,
Like a donut?
what? Yeah, right. And it's that we have become so comfortable being around these types of situations that, and we know that we're followed by whatever
What's the
it
Duncan?
is.
I'm still lost on that one.
Her Duncan is her ghost,
Oh my God.
and mine is Joey. And that's what I always say.
Well, I'm not going to name mine.
And
That's fucking
well,
insane.
You think it's insane?
To me, it is. Like,
Well, of course it is for
holy
now.
shit, that's
But what
out
if
there.
the entities that you're encountering all the time just want your attention, and you give them that attention and they leave you alone? I mean, it's creating boundaries, and it's telling them and allowing them to understand that, hey, listen, like, I'm the one who's in control. Because at the end
That's
of the
never
day,
going to happen.
it does happen.
No.
Yes, it
You're
does.
out of your mind.
Yes,
I'm
it
not
does.
going to agree with you on that one. That is
Yes,
psychotic
we
to
can-
me. I'm not going to sit here and have a fucking conversation with something that makes me piss my pants from time to time, or stands above me when I'm sleeping, or walks through a wall. If you think that I want anything to do with that that's friendly, or be like, hey, I'm your boss, Maybe you did hit some drugs.
Let me ask you this. I've never.
Sorry,
no offense.
no way.
But I've never done drugs before.
I know. I didn't mean it like
but
that.
I know you didn't. But this is what I'm going to ask you right now. Is that if you can control your fear and turn that fear into curiosity, what could it eventually turn into? And it becomes a commonality within the spiritual world in your world.
What, a sitcom?
No, it's not a sitcom.
Yeah.
It's basically.
I mean, that's what you're making it out to be.
But I'm not. I think that the reality says is that you have to learn to live with specific gifts and things that are happening around you.
It's
and
a gift. This is what God wanted for me.
I'm not saying it's necessarily God.
I'm sorry, but
I'm not
this
saying,
isn't a gift for me. If
I'm
anything,
not saying
it's a
that
curse.
It's God.
There's
right?
nothing friendly about what's in my house.
It's not friendly because you haven't explored what its intentions are. And I think that for me, as a person who is sensitive in general, is you have to take control of your own experiences. You have to take control of what are you going to decide. There's been days in my life where I legitimately have said to these entities, not today. I'm not in the mood.
It don't work like that. I've tried that.
No,
I begged and pleaded. I've screamed and yelled. There's a lot of stuff that's
Screaming and
happening in my
yelling,
life
no.
besides the 17 videos I've posted online that
Screaming-
I've shown you.
well,
Screaming at it. I've tried sage. I've tried Palo Santo. I've talked to pretty much every religion I could readily have that would have a conversation about this. I've had an investigator, and it all ends in the same result. You
Which
got to
is?
figure it out on your own. And that's a shit poor thing to have, weighing on you. Because
I
you
don't
see all
think-
these movies that
Right.
are like, oh, we can help you. Oh, sage your home. Oh, say
Okay.
Jesus Christ. I've said Jesus Christ. I've said a lot of things. And yeah,
I'm not
grab a hold of
saying-
that.
This is what I'm telling you. I'm not telling you that you need to go and that you need to cast out this entity. That's not what I'm saying. Or entities.
And I'm not being argumentative,
Whatever.
but just don't assume that it's that easy for everyone. It's not a TV
It's
show
not.
and it's not a novel, and not everybody thinks like that.
And I don't think it is. I don't think that that's what I'm trying to get at. What I'm trying to get at, JB,
Yeah,
is
can I
that
help you out a little bit?
Yeah?
Okay, so I think what she's trying to say is, from a young age and having dealt with it, she understands the work that it takes to build up that inner ability to, not quote unquote cast it out, but to kind of suppress it or make it so it's not running every part of your day. And it's like we've talked about, it's not an overnight light switch type of thing, but if the work is put in, it's something that is possible, I think, is what she's trying to let you know. Does that sound?
But you know how discouraged I am, Rob. You know I work
yeah.
to the point where I call you at night to go to sleep. When my
Right.
wife's at
No,
work and I
yeah.
have no one else to chat with, how many times have we had conversations? You know what I've done.
Yeah.
But to think that it's just that easy, I'm going
It's
to
not.
fundamentally think that that's wrong because, like I have stated, and you can see the emotional roller coaster that I go through in my videos. I'm just going to say that, it's not that easy for everybody.
no. And I'm not saying that it is easy. That's not what I'm saying at all.
I mean, it's not like
I'm
a
saying-
counseling session at this time. It's you got to understand that different people, it's like a footprint. When you're dealing with the paranormal, it literally is a footprint, a thumbprint, and everyone views it and sees it in a different light.
Sure. Well, this is my whole perspective on that. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't feel certain ways or feel discouraged or, that it's easy for
Which
everybody.
is a natural emotion
It's-
for
it's
900% of people.
It's not easy. And that's what I'm trying to say, is that we people in this world, in this forum, have been through probably similar situations that I have been through. And that you have been through.
Yes, and
the
they're all
things-
different.
Right, exactly. But that's the glory of it.
But to
The
expect somebody
glory-
to communicate and, be
I'm
the
not.
boss of it, that is
I'm
a
not.
whole nother line, and that's
and I
a one
agree.
percenter type thing.
That's very, very hard to do.
A one percenter,
I think it is.
if not lower.
I think it is, but I think that the most important thing is that to understand that there's people out there and groups out there to help you understand what's going on and help you navigate those situations. And when you are in those situations, you feel like you are alone and nobody will understand. And there are people out there to help you. And there are
Yeah,
people
that
who
are
out there who will
completely
listen.
nuts.
Yes, that's all your. Here's the thing. Okay, I'm sorry, JB, but I'm just going to say it. Your perspective is amazing. I love your perspective. I love what you say. But at the end of the day, when worst comes to worst, you were in a very dark place. And I've been there. And
I
a
got
lot of
candles
people just listen. And there's been a lot of darkness around you because you don't understand what's happening. And I get it. And I understand
Because
it.
that's
And
a natural emotion.
Absolutely. And I 100% solidify that type of emotion and your opinion.
But
What I'm
I've had
telling
conversations with people that think a lot like you do, and like I have argued to my death that each and every individual who does experience something, whether it be paranormal or something that's not paranormal, you don't know what you're going to do unless you're put into that position.
Absolutely. And I agree with those comments 100%. What I do not agree with is that unless you are literally dying from this entity, you need to try and understand this entity and what its intention is. And is
Been there, done that.
Okay, so tell me the intention.
I have no idea.
That's what I'm saying.
That's insane.
There's no intention behind it. The reality says is that it wants your attention. It wants you to understand where it's coming from. It wants your reaction. That's what it feeds off of. That's what it's going.
Well, it's going to
off
get the same fucking reaction every time from me.
Well, and that's
So JB, sorry to interrupt, Kat. I think what is important is, and I know that it's almost impossible to understand being in your shoes, but that feeling of no hope is where you can become real vulnerable. So it's like, what we've talked about in the past. It's like, you want to try and escape that feeling of being alone and not being able to talk about it, but also the feeling like you've exhausted all of your options because
I have. We have.
that's
Serge has said that. He's helping me deal with it. Like,
well, I mean,
outside
it
of
feels
getting
like
curious, Rob, which I'm
Yeah.
dragging your ass with me if we even go down that. And
yeah.
Serge, like, you'll be here soon enough.
Yeah.
I'll let you do a live while you're here by yourself. Let's see that.
Absolutely, I'll be there. I just don't. I think I just don't want you to have that no hope feeling. I know that that's easier said than done, but that's what I'm here for. That's what Search is there for. We're there to help you out, man.
Right. Well, and at the end of the day, JB, I think what I'm trying to tell you is that I have struggled for a significant part of my life.
And I see that. I can hear that. Like,
regarding this specific
but I'm
situation.
not a sensitive.
I'm not saying
I'm JB.
I'm not saying that you have to be sensitive. That's not what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if you're sensitive or not. It's that you're having those experiences and how those experiences are affecting you. And obviously those experiences are affecting you in a very negative way. And it's how do you look at those experiences and say, okay, I'm not alone. And how do you look at those experiences and say, I'm not crazy. Like, I mean, I think that that's the big picture regarding the stories that we both have. I know that you struggle every single day with whatever is happening within your household. And I'm letting you know that my whole intention of even coming on this show is to let you know that you're not alone.
I know.
And that
it's just the advice that I get from people. And like I said, this whole conversation made me a little uneasy because of the experiences that you had, and I respect each and everybody's viewpoint. But where I'm stuck is that I have been told now, including by you, that this is something that I'm just going to have to get used to. And you know what? Fuck that.
It's not getting used to it.
It's gonna be
JP.
harder than hell. I'll go out and take some more advice and I'll go do my
No.
research and I'll go into places that are scary, but I mean, life's scary enough. And
I-
he's just telling me I'm gonna have to deal with it. What kind of fucking
It's
advice is
not.
that?
It's not dealing with
From
it.
anybody, not just you, and I'm not just
Oh,
saying
sure.
that, but it's,
Sure.
it's not any hope, but how much can a person mentally take of something that, is like this? Before you just shut the fuck down and just wither
Yeah.
away.
I understand where you're coming from, right? I've been there. I understand what you're saying. It's overwhelming. Number one. Number two, people are telling you what to do and you're like, they don't get it. They don't understand the extent of what's happening. But I can tell you that there's more people out there who understand the extent than what you are giving people credit for.
I haven't
And I
discredited anybody, actually.
JB, please listen. But what I'm going to tell you is this. And this is a piece of advice. And I'm not saying you have to be okay with whatever's happening within your household. But I will say that there are groups and there are places that will help you navigate of how to deal with these situations. Because at the end of the day, there are things that are completely out of our control. And unfortunately, this is one of them. It really is.
And that's
The
a hard
only
pill to
thing-
swallow for me. That's what I'm clearly illustrating.
Absolutely is a hard pill to swallow. But it's how do you cope with the situations that are happening? How do you cope with the emotions that you're feeling? And how do you explain that to your audience, right? I mean, that's the whole reason why you have this entire channel is because it's something that is unexplainable that you want answers to. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
whole point.
But
right?
it's hard to hear that over and over and
Absolutely.
over and over.
And
like-
I'm not saying that you have to understand that over and over again, but if you're hearing it over and over again, clearly there's something that you're missing. And I mean that in the most respectful way.
No, and I know that, and and this is a
And
good conversation.
and
it's
when-
just
when
it's
you're
hard for
sitting
somebody
there-
like me who is an emotional person
absolutely.
to just say, oh, it's that easy, and
It's
just
not.
draw a line, and it just I'm telling you that
It
is
is
a very
not
difficult
easy.
thing for me.
It is not easy in general. I will tell you that right now. I
But
have drawn
just
the line
assume
in
that
the
you can just
sand.
draw a line
No.
with it. It does not work like that.
It does not.
Normal cases.
No, but I'm telling you that you have to have a grit and that you have to take your fear and you have to feed off of the fear and you have to feed off of it in a positive way. And the more negativity that you're consistently feeling and that you're exerting into this type of situation is going to amplify it and it's going to make it worse.
And I think that's the case for everyone right now because,
Oh, sure.
we do live in a very crazy world, and I've seen a lot of loss. And negativity is everywhere you go now.
Right. So what?
Everywhere. You can't get online without seeing something that's being fed in. You got trolls that try to just destroy your entire self-dignity for having the courage to come out and put content out. The criticism alone from just this aspect, plus you got the real life aspect, and you got the stresses of kids, and it's a compiled thing. So to
Sure.
find reality right now and say that you got to exit yourself from reality, well, honey, I don't have the time to go build a log cabin in the middle of nowhere and just sit there and cut myself out from reality.
Well,
And that's real.
Well, and I think that no one's expecting you to do that. I don't think that's what this conversation
That's about
is
the only
about.
way you can get negativity out of your life
I
at
don't
this
think
point.
I don't think so at all. I think it's a mindset, and I think it's how you decide that you're going to work on specific issues. So if you're being tormented by an entity or something that is bothering you every single day, it's how do you cope with that to make it
It's not a
norm.
personal negativity. It is an abundant amount of negativity everywhere you look. That's my point. I'm not saying that I filled my heart with negativity and I just have this negative outlook at life. Shit, when I'm not at home, I feel fine. When I come home is when I have the problem. Okay? And it's seeing the absorbent amount of negativity that surrounds you. And I'm just not looking at life in a
Okay.
bad sense. I
So-
literally see it everywhere. People are getting evicted. You can't
Okay,
dodge
that has
negativity
nothing to
that
do-
feeds it.
That's nothing to do with the ghosts. But let me ask you this.
In your situation, maybe
Just,
not, but everyone else says it feeds off negativity. So that's kind of
It,
like
it does.
a contradiction of your own words there, lady.
Not
Not to be
necessarily.
disrespectful, but
I've never said that it does.
you
But
literally
this
just
is
said
what
that,
I'm
though.
going to ask of you. Okay? What I'm going to ask of you is this. In what circumstance has this situation or this entity actually been negative to you?
Every time.
When has it hurt you? Or is it your fear
Do you
that
know
is
the
overcoming
whole
it?
life story? Do you think I
Yes.
catch all of this on camera? And no, you don't know the whole life story. You only know what I've posted.
I'm asking you.
So
I'm
how
not
do you
trying
know
to be
what it
argumentative.
has?
I'm just telling you this. I believe in what is happening in your home is directly connected to you. Do I believe that it is necessarily negative? I don't know yet. I don't know. But what I do know is that your reactions are feeding this entity and feeding the energy that is around you, and your curiosity is spiking that. So you have to decide what type of energy you're going to exude from that. And if you exude negative energy, it's going to feed you negative energy. If you exude positive energy, then it will exude positive energy.
I disagree. I
I
can
do
be as
not.
positive as it wants, and as soon as I start to experience something, then I feel anxious, I get scared. So no, it does not feed off of positive energy for me. It does not work
Chad,
that way.
I think that in JB's situation, the psychological warfare that it can put a person through, there is no like positive energy that can make it suppress in the state that it's in. And that's a real situation that is constantly, feeding negative thoughts, especially that the following, and the second you let your mind rest for a second, it's popping back in. I think the positive energy can help anyone through something hard, and so I don't disagree with that, but I don't think that, like, if you're unicorns and rainbows the whole time, that it's all of a sudden going to change its stance. I think it might try even harder to bring a negative light on things.
Right, and that's not where I
that's what
was
makes
going,
things so
and please
impossible for
understand,
me.
I'm not being disrespectful, but
Yeah, no,
it's
not at
hard
all.
not to get defensive when you've heard so many contradicting stories. You know what I mean, Rob? Like, it's almost like an overload of information that you
Right,
can't control the flow of.
right.
And I completely agree with Kat on a lot of things, but it's not as easy as one, two, three. Not for everyone.
Well, I'll
Because you got
tell
to
you,
understand, like, I've gotten to the point where I take meds.
right.
You know what I
And
mean? Sleep aids,
what I learned from speaking
anxiety.
with Kat, before this live, was that she can relate with that rush of emotion that just kind of hits you out of nowhere. Is that right,
Like, even
Kat?
just talking about it, I get testy about it.
Right. Well, and I think that the thing is that earlier on when I was younger, it was I didn't know how to deal with these situations. And I think that what I'm trying to tell you, JB, is that it's not just like Rob said, it's a coping mechanism, and I'm not saying that it's okay or to get used to it. I'm saying trying to evaluate the intention behind whatever is happening or what triggers it is going to be your key to deciding what is actually happening within the household. And everybody has triggers. So
I'm
it's
not
like,
the key.
are you having a bad day and then
I'll
it's
just
more
never agree
prominent?
with that.
Well,
I
and you don't
can't.
have to.
And
That's
until
not my style.
I go out there and experience at a different level and not in my own home, it's hard not to get defensive about it. And you were right. I do need to get more curious, which I do think is absolutely insane. But I'll go out and I'll try stuff, and I'll experience other people's places, and I'll go spend some time, and if that's going to help.
Right.
It's just you get to a certain point, because keep in mind, like I said, 7 years, I actually traced this back to almost 18, coming up on December 26th, and I'm even going back to New Orleans, to try to figure that out. And that's part of the investigative process, I guess. But it's just hard for me to agree with a lot of people who are like you that are sensitives and just see this as being, hunky dory.
I don't think that it's hunky dory. I think that that's where you're not understanding
Then
me
if I
correctly.
misunderstand,
Is
I
that
get that, and I
it's
apologize
It's not
ahead of time.
It's
But
not hunky dory at all.
I've heard this
It's-
stuff before, and I just don't buy it.
and that's fine, and you don't have to. But what I'm saying is that when you walk down into your basement every day, can you say that you don't buy it? When you
No,
hear
I try not to
something-
go down there at all.
When you hear voices or the laughing, do you pretend like you don't buy it? The reality says is that
I try to. If you want to know the honest to God truth, yeah, I try to shrug it off.
Yeah, of course you do. But at the end of the day, it's still happening. It's still happening whether you want it to or not. Whether you black it out or not, it's still happening. It is. And I'm sorry to put it that way and be so blunt about it.
No, I
And it's
appreciate
only-
it, but
and
I mean,
it's-
at the same time, when you throw stuff out there, you're gonna get resistance from some people.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And that's the
And-
good part about talking it out, because
Absolutely.
it's not so one-sided.
And-
And I'm here to defend all the other people that do want to have a voice that, don't think as you do or as anybody
But
else
it's
does.
not
You know what
even-
I mean? And
It's not even how I think. I think that the reality is that things happen that we can't explain.
yes.
And we don't have answers for those things. So it's up to you to decide how you're going to deal with them.
And find my own answer.
Right. Are you going to be fearful? Are you going to be curious? Are you going to be angry? Who knows? Who knows how you're going to respond to those situations? I can tell you from my own personal experience that I have experienced all three of those emotions. I've experienced the curiosity. I've experienced the freaking anger and the annoyance from it all. And I've also experienced the fact of, you know what, like it is what it is.
Then
And
you know
have to come
how
to
I
terms
feel
with
right
it.
now.
Absolutely. So for you to go out and learn and see what else is out there to experience off of your curiosity, I highly encourage, because you are stuck in this mindset that everything is hunky-dory, and it's not. I'm not saying that it is. What I'm saying is that you learn how to deal with specific entities, whether hard
It leaves
or
a foul
good.
odor in my basement that smells like a rotten body.
And I understand
Okay, it
those
scares the shit out of
situations.
my entire family.
Yes.
It makes it to where I don't want to go downstairs. My dog won't even go downstairs, and it's the most neediest dog that you'll ever see, and that's on the
So
verge of croaking
my-
because he's so old.
So my question
if
to you
this
is,
entity isn't like a ghost that's trying to play peekaboo at this point in my life.
no, and I'm not saying it is, and I've been and encountered entities just like this one. What I'm telling you is that when you come into contact with those entities, how are you, or what resources are you using to help either take care of that entity to where you can either maintain it, control it, or get rid of it? And I think
And that's the journey that I have to take.
right. Because at the end of the day, JB, it's not about how anybody else feels, and it's not about their experiences. This whole forum and this whole everything that we're going through is a safe space to say, you know what, we've all been through these things. A lot of us have been through these things and we're unable to describe them. And creating spiritual counsel, I'm not saying through a church, I'm saying all those things, but it's exploring the rhyme and reason behind why these entities are doing what they're doing, and what's feeding them, and what's antagonizing them, and what's helping them. And I'm not saying that I'm not scared every single day, because there is fear that is involved. It's how do you cope with that fear so that you can help identify what is going on so that you can make the best decision for you and your household so that it's not continuously antagonizing. And I have been antagonized my entire life. That's what I'm telling you. And there's people out there who can help you. And there's people out there who can, if you're open to those things. However,
It's opening up yourself to those things, and that's why I'm so
exactly.
combative, because it's
and being open to
insane
those things
for me to
and
even
being
do
open
it.
to those things to say this is actually happening to me and being real with it and understanding it, and there's a reason why those entities are the way that they are, or whatever it is trying to get your attention. And whether it's because they know that you hear them, or because they know that you can help, or because they're just flat out want to make your life a freaking crap show.
No,
I
you're
don't
right.
know.
And that's what I gotta
But-
figure out. And I think a
So,
compilation of it.
We're super fortunate that we have supporters like yourself that are so willing to be open and so passionate about wanting to help, and we appreciate every single one of them. And that's the big thing. We definitely, we appreciate that, and I just don't want your intentions to get lost on your passion of wanting to help.
Right.
So I think that he kind of picks up what you're putting down, and we can discuss it further. But if you guys want to, move past what we're talking about and maybe on to a couple other things, I think it'd work out great. I just didn't want. I think JB was worried that he had, or you guys are both worried that you had kind of misunderstood or disrespected each other.
No, and that wasn't my
No.
intention at all. It's,
I-
when you have stuff and you're compassionate
Yeah.
about it,
Or
like,
you're passionate, right? I don't
That's
think.
exactly what it is.
Well, I don't think that it's that at all. I think that it's coming from somebody who has had this specific experiences for a significant amount of time versus somebody who is new. And
Right.
for
it is new, and that's why
Right.
it like scares me just to hear people talk about it. It's
Right.
like, wow.
And it's solidifying the fact that what you're seeing and what you're experiencing are true, and that I understand where you're coming from. I feel like my job.
It just came off as a little preachy, and I've been through too much of that, and I apologize. That was never my intention, but
Yeah.
it's hard to sit here and just hear so many conflicting things. And please don't
sure.
take it that I was trying to be mean at all. It's
I
just,
don't take it like that at all.
it just came off a little preachy to me.
Oh, sure.
It did.
And
And I'm going to call it every time I see it,
and I
because
get it.
that's who I am.
And I
And
get
I give
it.
it to it raw.
And I get it, and I understand that, and I respect that. I think that at the end of the day, that one thing that you need, my own personal opinion, okay, take it as you will, is that if you want help and you want to be heard, then you need to be open. And you were so encompassed within what is happening that you're letting it evaluate and control your life.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, I'm not here to preach to you. I'm here to tell you my story.
Yeah,
I'm
and
here to-
I just think that it
and
got
I'm
way
here to
off
tell
to
you-
where it was like, here, we got to do this, or you
No.
got to just establish the lines. It don't work like that. for me.
I don't.
And I
I
do
don't feel like
appreciate
that.
it, but I'm very on edge with some of this stuff, and it's hard to talk. Like I said from the beginning, this conversation has made me very uncomfortable.
Well, my intention is not to make you uncomfortable.
No, not that. It's just,
It
it's
is
real talk.
to be real and to let you know what I've learned in my life, and to let you know what has helped in the past, and to hopefully help you and to help
Yeah, and
others.
it has helped me.
And
It has,
regardless of your skepticism, and regardless,
And just like anybody, I'm going to be skeptical.
Oh, sure,
I
absolutely,
mean,
respectable.
and I know what my videos look like, and believe me,
That's
like,
respectable. And you know, you can be skeptical all you want, but based on the footage that you've received and based on the
It's more
opinions
than
that
the
you've
footage,
heard,
though, and that's what I've been trying to say.
JB, just listen for a minute. Is that at the end of the day?
Okay, Mom.
Yeah, I am a mom, obviously. But what I'm telling you is that all you hear is what you hear. And I don't mean to be sassy, and I don't mean to be disrespectful.
And it wasn't sassy,
I'm
but
just
again, a little
telling you,
preachy. You
I'm
know,
just-
you had a
I'm
scary
not trying to be
experiences, and
preachy.
I get that, but
I'm
not
telling-
everyone can just be that open to it. And that's what I'm saying.
I'm
You gotta
not saying
understand that there's
everybody
people
can.
out there that don't play with the full deck.
And
Guys,
I
think
was
what
not
may
open
have
to
been
it.
what may have been lost on the conversation is the fact that, as JB said earlier, he's new to this. Every experience, there's a progression to it, or there's stages to it. So, you guys being on different levels, or Kat having progressed because she dealt with it for so long, is kind of just trying to share some experience, you know, like an old uncle or old aunt that's gone through something like that you've gone through, and or like a breakup, and you talk to an old aunt and they're like, oh, it'll be fine, and in the moment you're like, no, it's fucking not.
Right.
So
I don't-
a progression stage that you're in, and she's kind of
Way ahead of me.
you know, progressed
Way
with-
ahead of me in the whole experience aspect. of it.
Yeah,
Exactly,
and I
exactly.
understand that. I think the whole intention behind this entire thing is to let you know that you're not alone.
Yeah, and it was a good
and
debate, and I
to let
appreciate
you-
that. And it's finally good to actually debate somebody who knows who the hell they're talking about.
And I think that
It really is. Like, it's a breath of fresh air to talk to somebody who actually has a brain about it, and not, you know, somebody who says that they can touch me and heal me.
I don't think it's about touching and healing. What I do believe in is that it's not something you need to be comfortable with. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you
And
have
I'm sorry
to
if
be
I
comfortable.
misunderstood that, but that's the way it came
Right.
off.
I think that the intention is that you need to try and understand what its intention is. And if that means that you have to swallow your pride for a minute and be fearful, yes, they feed off of fear. That's a huge issue. It's you have to be curious and understanding to understand the intention of what's happening within your household, and whether
And that's what I'm gonna
positive
try to do.
or
And I got that
negative
out of this
or whatever
conversation for
that's
sure.
going to happen. That's up to you. You know, I'm not here to cast stones.
No,
I'm not
and,
here
and
to
where
be,
it got me is honestly when
you
you said
know?
that you're a sensitive, that's what threw me off. And believe me, I've just had so many of them that I've talked to that shit went down a rabbit hole and got weird.
Oh, sure, and I understand that, but I'm telling you that my sensitivity has come with a lot of turmoil,
Yeah,
and
and I could see that.
and I can see how you are struggling with the turmoil that's happening within your life, or the sensitivities that are happening within your life. What I'm trying to tell you is that you're not alone, and that people have experienced the things that you have experienced, and that we are here to help and solidify and connect the dots and bring people together. And that's why you have this channel.
Yeah.
It's not to sit here and preach and yell and be and
I didn't yell
you
at
know,
all.
I know, I'm not saying that you did.
And I haven't preached at all. I just gave you
No.
my perspective of it.
Exactly, and I'm giving you mine. What I'm telling you is that this is a safe place, that if you are experiencing things that you are scared to talk to because you think people are going to think that you're crazy, or people aren't
I'm
going
good
to
with that
believe
now.
you.
I mean,
Like, bring it on.
Show me a normal person, and
Bring
I'll
it
introduce you to a
on.
liar.
Exactly. And I'm not discrediting what you're saying or that it's easy, because it's not. It's not at all. It's a constant battle every single day of my life. It is a constant battle. But it's how do you deal with those battles? And how do you decide how you're going to handle those situations? And how are you going to sit here and say, okay, I have an entity in my basement and is pissed. Like, what do I do? You know,
Get out of the house.
Well, everyone
You
can
know
see.
what I mean?
But some
Wait
people,
for him to chill out.
people will say, get out of the house. Other people will say, figure out why it's pissed. right? And that's what I'm saying. Your individuality needs to
Oh,
come
and I
into
see that.
play.
No, you're
and
right.
don't assume negative intent on every single entity that is within your home. Obviously,
I'm just saying you haven't been here to experience it, so it's not a positive intent. And
well,
I've had conversations like
then
with
why
my
don't
last
you
guest, which
then
it was a
invite me?
family member.
Well, then invite me into this home where I am a sensitive and I can help, or even try and give you my my opinion on it. Again,
I'll let
it's
you
not
be in
just
there
me,
alone. How about
but
that?
I have also had spiritual guidance of, there's groups out there to help people, and to help people like you, and to help people like me, to where we see things, we hear things, we feel things that are unexplainable, and therefore we get angry about it or we get anxious about it.
Anxious, passionate, emotional.
Passionate.
That's just a few words to describe what goes through in this house. And I'm at
Absolutely.
home right now, and
Anxiety.
it's the anxiety of even
Anxiety.
talking about it under this roof, which it sets me off. It does.
Which
Like I said,
is
even the
totally
fact that I
normal.
shared it,
But the important thing is that you're sharing this type of information, and there's a lot of people who can really understand where you're coming from and can help you in those situations. And I'm not going to say, I don't know what type of entity is in your house, JB. I don't know. I've never been there. I couldn't tell you. But what I can say is that as an individual and as somebody who is very connected to the spiritual world, whether I want to be or not,
no, yeah, and I get that.
honestly, I would prefer not to be, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
As my dad says, it is what
Yeah.
it is. You just take it
You're
as
right,
it is.
yeah.
How to cope with those things. And I've been very fortunate to find groups of people who are able to help me navigate through those situations. What I'm telling you is that neither negative or positive, because we don't know that intent, is to be curious, to try and understand rather than be fearful, and to try and maintain.
That's gonna be the hard one.
I know, and trying to maintain your fearfulness, because if you think about what it's like to work with animals, they can sense that fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with any type of entity or spiritual type of vulnerability that you might share. So,
And that's the thing is I don't like feeling vulnerable, and I constantly feel like I am. And I feel that, tonight's topics and, our conversation, you touched on a lot of my vulnerable parts. And that's why you got the reaction that you did. Is because, like I've said, I have never had a conversation with anyone that knew how I felt, and it bothered me. It bothers me. It's like, holy shit, you know what I mean? And it's just like running into the ghost. You don't know what to do, but it's, you get defensive about it because I'll admit I'm a coward when it comes to it. And I don't think that that'll ever change.
Oh, I know.
Because
It
I'm just
doesn't have
not,
to.
I'm just not coded like that in my head.
And
You know what I mean?
and that's
There's a lot
okay.
of stuff that I won't flinch at, believe me. But when it comes to this, I have searched high and low. And I think, talking with Josh, a good friend of mine from, the church, I need to go out and I need to basically toughen up. And I'm sorry if I came off bad, but I just refuse to believe that I'm this vulnerable. And you pretty much touched it on every level, and it scares the shit out of me.
Sure. I don't think that's about you being vulnerable. I don't think that that's the question at stake here. I think that
Oh, I'm definitely vulnerable.
No, I think that there's things that are going on within the household that you don't understand. And when there's a lack of understanding, there's some type of curiosity that comes into play. Now, what you do with that curiosity is different. If your curiosity is based upon fear, then obviously the entities or whatever spiritually is happening is going to feed off of that.
Yeah.
If you take your curiosity and you're based purely on what is actually happening logically, then it's a completely different aspect of what's happening within the household.
Right.
And I understand the fear factor because I've been there.
And
get
you
it.
can hear it in my voice right now. It's a
100%.
very irritating subject for me. And I'm thank
Yes.
God I have Rob and Search to help me out with it. And
Sure.
I've gained a lot from this conversation. I have.
I just believe and I feel based on my own personal experiences and based on your experiences that you've had is that when you show fear, it's an automatic behavior from whatever is
And
happening
my
to feed
immediately
off
is
of
to
that.
get defensive
Absolutely.
because of more than one aspect.
And that's okay. It's okay to be defensive. I'm not saying
It's
it's
hard
not.
enough to talk about and really think that we're having a legitimate conversation about this. Like, not in a million years does many people think that they would have a conversation like this and actually mean it. That's a
Absolutely.
huge step forward for me, and I hope it is for you. But you know, after talking to you, I can guarantee that this is not the first time you shared this story with somebody.
Well, to be honest, it is the first time I've shared my story.
So you've never talked about this.
No.
Wow.
I decided
you had me fooled.
I have decided to share my story because I think it's important, and
But you're
because
very good at it.
and I believe that I believe in what you're trying to do, and I believe in what people are saying, and I can understand that, and I see that, and I can be
Well, I mean, you've
connected
talked
with
about
that.
communities and places like that. I mean, don't you think that that would
But-
be a place where you share this?
Oh, sure it is. You know, and I think that it's okay to share those to explain every single situation that I've been in my life is
Yeah.
very broad.
Because you give a tenth of it,
Exactly.
just like I do.
But I could tell
And that's
you,
why I don't have 10,000 videos, because I
but
just,
I could tell you this, that in a nutshell, we have all been through a lot of things in our life that we can't explain. Whether you want to admit it or not, it is what it is. We have all seen things that we can't explain. We've all felt things that
and
we
it's
can't
just
explain.
nobody wants to talk about it.
And people are afraid to talk about it. To say that they're crazy or that it's not logical or, you know, all those things. And I think that my whole purpose of being on this podcast is not to sit here and tell you my story necessarily, but it's to say, you know, there's specific places out there and there's specific people that it's okay to be who you are and explain your story and share your story because we all have our own, and that's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. And and that's the big picture. It's okay.
Well, Kat, you definitely succeeded at scaring me tonight, for sure.
Oh, I'm
And
not.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And my.
And I don't want you to take anything out of this conversation other than my gratitude. And thank you for, you know, sticking in there when I got defensive and, you know, misreading the situation a little bit. And it's just, it baffles my mind that I can actually have a conversation like this with somebody.
Right. Well, and that's. The
And it's
whole
not
point.
scripted, and it's too raw emotions coming out. And I think that that's what this world's lacking now, is just that raw, unfiltered, true emotion that's not, you know, hidden behind bullshit. Because
Right.
let's face it, that's what it is.
Well,
you know.
and I think that that's the whole point, right, of this whole situation is to take something, try and find commonality, and then be able to feed off of that and find people who are like you. And I know that you've struggled, and I know that lots of people have struggled within their lives regarding this specific situations, or, you know, everyone's situations are different, but.
And I hope more people like you come out. I really do.
You know, and to test the waters and to know that it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to talk about. No one thinks you're
Even
crazy.
if you don't agree on everything, it's
Right.
okay.
No one
And I
thinks
think
you're
that's
crazy.
the good part about
It's-
tonight, is that
It's okay
we
to feel
shared
the way
very
you
similar
do.
experiences, but we come from very two different viewpoints. And I'm going to admit it, you're a lot stronger and braver than I'll ever be on that side. I can't reach down deep enough. And I hope that one day I will. I really do. That's the goal,
And
to have the
I-
courage to try to set boundaries with something that shouldn't even be there.
And I think that you will. I don't think that that's an issue. I think it's the whole point of your channel and this whole situation is to let people know that it's okay to be curious. It's okay to be different. It's okay to understand or try to understand what's going on within your lives. And everybody has their own experiences, and it's different, and it's understandable, and it's a free forum, and that's the whole reason why I came on this show, is to explain who I am and where I came from and the things that have contributed to the things that I've
Good. And I'm glad as hell I
experienced
met you, for real. I mean,
yeah.
I
And same with JB.
you stood toe to toe, and
and
that's
and
what I want.
And I know that it's been tough in my own life, and it's not a walk in the park, and it's hard. And JB knows, hopefully, that he's not alone in this experience.
No, definitely not. After hearing your story,
And-
I kind of feel bad about being so babyish.
Yeah,
You know what I
don't have
mean?
to
Like,
be a baby.
holy
But
shit.
it's also understanding that there's people out there who are like you, who understand it and get it, and share your stories. I think that that's the biggest thing, is share your stories.
Yeah.
If you don't share your stories, then nobody knows.
Well,
and if you don't,
can come every Thursday and hear a new one, because we got a bunch.
exactly. And if you don't share your stories, then nobody will know where where you come from and your experiences. So I
agree.
highly encourage that type of interaction.
yeah.
And nobody will ever understand you until you open up the floodgates and let them know what you're experiencing. Because
I think in this community after
Yes.
tonight, the floodgates have opened, and
it's not something
Yeah,
that
I
you
enjoy
need to be
this.
ashamed of, and it's not something that you need to hide from. This is a free forum, and there's lots of people who have been where you're at. So please reach out and let us know your story, and
Yeah.
hopefully we can help you. And I think that that's the big deal. I don't mean to supersede JB and where
No,
he's
not at
coming
all.
from, but I know, as a sensitive and somebody who's been through a whole lot of things in my life, that you're not alone. No one is alone. And
Words of encouragement, guys.
Yes.
And honestly, Dino Nugget 741 at Gmail. Submit your story, and let's have that chat. And I want to
Please.
thank Kat for coming on, and Search, and Rob, and Rob's sister, Miss Hens. Much love. I love all you
Yes.
guys, and thanks for watching. It means a lot. And
does.
Rob, is there anything that you want to say before we end out, or?
Yeah, JB, first of all, I was just going to mention how awesome everyone is in the comments. So many people have your back and are there for you, and
Thank you.
it's so great to see. The same as Kat having having your back and wanting to be there for you. You've got a ton of people in there as well. And
I'm
you've
thankful
also
for you
created
guys, you and Search. Search has been a very good friend of mine, and we're 1,000 miles apart. Same with Rob. We have a lot of cool things coming up on this. A lot of it is, just me trying to educate myself. This will be a pretty fun month. I think the months to come will even be better, because I got good people behind me. And Rob, thank you, man. Didn't mean to
Of
cut you
course.
off. My bad.
No, you're okay. You're okay. We love you too, man, and that's what it's about. We're here to help you, and hopefully be able to help other people as well. I was going to mention that we're doing updates on Twitter as much as we can. So if you didn't get a notification from YouTube, we'll make sure that we're posting it on Twitter. So it'll be in a couple different places. and we're continuing discussions on Discord. The server name has the same name as the YouTube or the TikTok, so we're absolutely so fortunate to have everyone that's willing to discuss things and willing to have the courage to come on and talk to JB. I mean, it's such a great feeling to see everyone come together like that.
I agree. And again, I thank you guys. It's going to be a good month. And again, thanks to Kat for coming on and educating my silly ass, and I appreciate it. So,
Thank you, Kat.
again, guys, much love to everyone. Thank you all for the support, and I can't wait till the next time we go. Rob will probably be here with me in person the next time we do come on live. And if you have any other questions, you can always reach out to Search as well. We are a team here. So again, guys, we do appreciate it. Brooke, same to you. And until next time, you guys have a good night.
Thanks so much, guys.
And we'll see you again. Bye-bye.